At the start of World War II, of the 335,000 soldiers in the U.S. military, there was a total of only two black officers. They were a father and a son with the same name, Benjamin O. Davis Sr. and Benjamin O. Davis Jr. They would go on to become America's first two black general officers and lay the foundation to both create and command the world-famous Tuskegee Airmen, as well as the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, what is now known as the TSA, and so much more. They would work under 8 different presidential administrations, and Ben Davis Jr. would end up passing away on the 4th of July, where he's buried at Arlington National Cemetery with a black headstone. But perhaps most importantly, they were the center of my family, and their story is woven into the fabric of American history. Yet their names, their voices, and this story have remained largely invisible. This is the story of the Invisible Generals. The year is 1918, and there is only one black officer in the United States military. He was assigned to the Buffalo Soldiers in Wyoming. His name was Benjamin O. Davis Sr. He was a single father whose wife had died in childbirth. His son had always dreamed of flying in the skies and looking up in the days and nights to be inspired. So he'd asked his father if one day he could go up in an airplane in real life. Ben Davis Sr. said, "If you'd like to be a pilot, we can make that dream come true together. We just have to get you into West Point." Ben Davis Sr. then relocated the family to Illinois so they could sit in the district of America's only black congressman, Oscar DePriest, to get the necessary signature to get in. And in 1932, Ben Davis Sr. brought his son down to the train, hugged him goodbye, and sent him away to West Point. Once Ben Jr. arrived at West Point, he was assigned a converted janitor's closet due to his race. It was at the end of the hall with no roommate. That first night, he went to sleep scared and alone, only to wake up to the pitter-patter of the feet of all his fellow cadets that were all headed down to the sinks for a mandatory meeting. Ben arrived late, and when he got there, the door was locked, and he listened in. The meeting was about him. The faculty and head of cadets had called everyone together to let them know that they had accidentally allowed an N-word into the academy, and they were to treat him as if he was invisible until he dropped out. Ben immediately ran to the phone and called his father to tell him what happened, and his father said to him, "Ben, there are 13 million black Americans rooting for you on the other side. You must put the date of graduation on the wall, and no matter what they do to you, you must graduate from West Point." Ben Jr. said to his dad, "Well, it's too bad none of them are in here." They shared a laugh, and he hung up the phone. That call began a 4-year journey. For 50 weeks a year, Ben Davis Jr. had no human contact outside the line of duty. He had to eat every single meal alone by himself. He went to the Army-Navy game in a segregated bus by himself. He was required to fail all partner classes such as ballroom dancing and boxing because no one would participate with him. And he was treated as if he didn't exist, whether he was raising his hand in class or talking to someone in the quad. With 3 months left before graduation, Ben Davis Jr.'s grades have allowed him to be in the top third of the class, an accomplishment that should allow him to select which division of the military he'd like to continue his career in. He said to the commandant, "I would like to be a pilot." At the time, blacks were not allowed to operate heavy machinery or fly airplanes, so the commandant suggested that he drop out. Ben Davis Jr. said he would not drop out, and he would continue on with the graduation and live his dream regardless of what they told him. And in June 1936, Ben Jr. and Ben Sr. at graduation stood there shaking hands as America's only two black line officers, a father and a son who would eventually become America's first two black generals. Because it was against military policy for blacks to command whites, the Army was unsure of what to do with their two black officers. So they sent Ben Sr. and Ben Jr. on a 4-year road trip to teach ROTC at black colleges and universities across the United States. This was an assignment well below their rank, but something they enjoyed doing together. When they visited each school, they were somewhat of rock stars, and they would tell everybody to stand tight, stand right, and one day the United States will come calling. In 1940, President FDR was seeking re-election. Most black Americans at that time were voting Republican because Abraham Lincoln had created the Republican Party. FDR was a Democrat and wanted to win the black vote. So he brought on Ben Davis Sr. as his top Negro advisor to help him win re-election. He asked Ben Sr. what would be the best way for him to earn the black vote in America. And Ben Davis Sr. said, "You must show that the military is equal and fair to everyone. And that begins with allowing blacks to have all the assignments, which includes flying airplanes." FDR replied, "But who would lead that?" And Ben Sr. said, "My son." And in 1941, Ben Jr. flew down to Tuskegee, Alabama, and passed the aviation test to become the United States Army's first black pilot. That was the beginning of the Tuskegee Airmen, where Ben Jr. would eventually command a 100% segregated military during World War II that consisted of 15,000 men and women, most of which were taught by Ben Jr. and his father on their ROTC tour of duty. The Tuskegee Airmen would end up being assigned to Ramatelli, Italy, and during that assignment, Ben Jr. realized the maps that they were given during the war were also segregated. So to ensure that his men weren't shot down by other Americans, he told them all to go out and paint their plane tails red so everyone would know they were part of the United States. That was the birth of the Red Tails. After the war, Ben Jr. would work with his father stateside, who was now a general, and help integrate the military under President Truman. Ben Jr. would continue his father's legacy and go on to become a 1-, 2-, and 3-star general in the United States Air Force, ultimately being denied his 4th star by President LBJ. To continue his commitment to serve the United States, he would go on to work in the Pentagon under 3 different presidential administrations: Nixon, Carter, and Ford. During his time at the Pentagon, he would lead the creation of Airport Security, which is now known as the TSA, the United States Air Marshal Program, and the implementation of the first federal speed limit, 55 miles per hour. In 1998, President Bill Clinton invited our family to the White House grounds to promote Ben Jr. to a long-awaited 4-star general status. Ben would go on to live a few more years, and on the 4th of July, America's birthday, 2002, Ben would pass away. His final request was to be buried next to his father in Arlington National Cemetery, but he also requested a black headstone on a hill overlooking all the white tombstones in death that overlooked him in life. That's the story of the Invisible Generals. The legacy of Benjamin Davis Jr. still lives on today. In 2017, West Point dedicated their largest, most expensive barracks on campus to him, the Davis Barracks. And in 2019, the United States Air Force Academy dedicated their airfield after him. The Davis Airfield is the 2nd busiest airfield in the United States of America. And to honor him even a step further, the United States Air Force directed that all training planes used by cadets at the Air Force Academy are painted red and adorn the name of General Benjamin O. Davis Jr. in his honor. The book, Invisible Generals, debuted on Veterans Day 2023 on Simon & Schuster. It hit #1 on Amazon under African American biographies, Black history, World War I history, and World War II history. I was subsequently featured on The Daily Show, CNN, The Guardian, and countless other news outlets. In 2025, the paperback version of Invisible Generals was featured in every single airport in the United States of America for Black History Month. Currently, I'm the executor of the Davis Estate and have aligned with West Point, the Air Force Academy, the Smithsonian, Arlington National Cemetery, and other public sector outlets to align on the telling of this story. My dad was raised by the generals and is 91 years old, and I would love to bring this story to the screen in his lifetime and share with the world something that has been kept invisible for so long.